And we're live. Welcome back to the Dresden Files podcast.
Yes, Dresden Files. This time we're going to talk about the law that we've been talking about for weeks, honestly, but get to actually discuss it, dissect it, go through page by page, line by line.
Yep. I think. Oh, just a second here. I opened up the stream to see the chat, and I could hear myself. I got really distracted there because I started playing.
Yes, let's keep simple focus. Let's just one novella. Although, I mean, do you have any opening opinions about it? Because it has been just a little bit divisive, I think.
I mean, I really liked it, but it wasn't like a 5-star, more like 4.5 or something. If I were to put it in Goodreads terms, I think I watched. We just talked about Daniel Green's video about it, and I think he had a fair criticism, but the good parts I just really liked more than what he liked. So I think it's fair to say that it's the first book after Battleground, right? It kind of feels like it's suspended in time. It kind of has to feel suspended in time because you want to save all the stuff for the main next book, right? This was just kind of like we know behind the scenes. This was like a fun summer project that Jim got contacted to do, and he was like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And he made up the story. I really loved the getting back to more detective-y. I thought that was really cool. I love the new characters. I really like Max. I like him a lot. I like that Dresden has a lawyer now.
Yes, Dresden definitely needs a lawyer.
He needs to study the Ancilia courts. He's gonna need that at some point.
It might be good for him to have an actual document to refer back to once in a while.
The pimp being just huffing copium, which is like a Twitch thing, and with there is no magic. I got the what is it, heebie-jeebies or whatever he says. I thought that was funny. I mean, it was a solid story, solid book. The audio book narration was really, really good and just really interesting to hear Jim's version of the voices. Some better than others, but it was definitely interesting. But yeah, I think the main criticism you can walk away from the law is that whole kind of where Battleground ended, all these massive things happen, and we're just kind of not really dealing with that. But that makes sense in the greater scope.
It does make sense. I think of the law as being like, this is the test run for how he's wanting to do 12 months. This is we're dealing with smaller things in each separate months instead of being one giant debacle of a 3 days. So having the issues being smaller and more spread out is how we're actually going to see how people are healing and changing and just reacting to Battleground. And so this felt like a test run, but I enjoyed it. It went back to the noir gumshoe detective, which I love. So it's just playing into the things that I enjoy. The damsel in distress and the pimp evil bad guy, they're not the most complex characters, but I don't need them to be. And in fact, we don't need them to be, I don't think. They are the common people. This was a very common bad guy. Not everything is demigods that are going to crush the world. Some of the problems that they're dealing with are everyday little assholes.
You also have to play into some tropes so people can kind of fill in the blanks themselves. When you got 3.5 hours ish length of a story, right? And Justin's back. Is the microphone working, Justin?
It's not the microphone; it's the signal. So,
yeah. Oh, yeah. Justin's here in spirit.
Yes. If you would like to attempt to share opening thoughts on the law, you can try. We'll see if we can understand it.
Am I a robot, beep boop?
Yeah, you're kind of a robot, but yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but it's not the best listening experience.
That's cool. Well, I can pass. I'll catch up later.
Okay.
So do we do we do the usual thing, or basically take it from start to finish? And
Well, I've got the Kindle version up on the side. Like,
okay,
I have this version
Oh.
novella 3 different ways just to be prepared for this. All right, so chapter 1.
there's some news I forgot we should probably share.
News.
There is, for anyone interested, from, was it Eaton Press? I think it is. I linked it earlier on Discord.
It was the signed, like, what, leather-bound form of Stormfront?
There is a signed leather-bound edition of Stormfront you can buy in installments even. It's like $141. It looks really cool. I really want a special edition of Stormfront. So if anyone from the US wants one, you can get one. If you're in Europe like me, it's probably gonna be prohibitively expensive for most people with import tax and stuff. But it's really cool. That was the only news that as far as I know.
All right. Let's see. So chapter 1, we meet Dresden, and he is in mourning with the U. It's a dumb joke. I'm so sorry. But it starts philosophizing about life isn't fair. It's horrible and it's mean. And the unfair thing is going to happen, which is about the fairest thing about life at all. And Murphy is dead, and he can't really handle it, but he tries to bottle up his grief into certain time points when no one is going to bother him. It's between 3 and 5 a.m. because he can just lie awake, not sleeping, and deal with it, and then he can pretend to be a functioning human being when he gets up in the morning.
And this is kind of the setup for the whole time suspension that we touched on there, right? That's like, it's getting explained that way.
Yeah, so this is about a month, a little bit less maybe, after Battleground, whereas like I think Little Things was about 2 weeks after Battleground, so this is 2 weeks after that. And so things have been moving. Things have been slowly getting better, but nothing significantly better. And he's still just trying to fake a level of functionality.
So is this before Christmas, the Christmas short story?
Yes.
Right.
So when he finally wakes up at 5 a.m., he takes a cold shower out of a choice, because then he's not thinking about anything else when you're in the cold shower, because they are miserable. Goes down to...
I like how he has access to actually taking a hot shower now.
Yeah, that's an interesting implication.
We still take the cold shower.
Right. He goes down to the kitchen, and Will is there with coffee, and they just kind of grunt at each other with no sounds, like up until they have coffee and they're functioning human beings, pretending to be.
I can't relate. I don't drink coffee.
You're not a grown-up then.
Yep.
That's the gatekeeping I'll put on. Like, grown-ups drink coffee.
I'll drink, a heavy milk ice kind of coffee.
That's a milkshake.
Tastes good.
Okay. After coffee, Justin can understand English, and Will goes over the list of things that they have to do that day. Let's see, they have to eat a whole bunch of carbs because it's leg day. Apparently there's a budget meeting at 1 because the economy is still bad. Big evil economy. Marcone cut some corners when he built the place, and now they have rezoning guys threatening legal action. The city was careful about Marcone, but they don't give a shit about Dresden. So the fact that it's a castle in the middle of a neighborhood, they are asking questions and being unhappy. Then there's a meeting with a Paranet committee with Paranoid Gary. And at 4, they have to arrange the details of the first date with Lara. I'm not budging on my limits, Dresden says.
I like the Will has become Dresden's PA.
Yes. It's interesting to choose Will for the position, I think, since I figure he would prefer to be running around and like being a wolf and all that, or maybe a dad because he's got a little girl now.
So maybe he's the PA in a more, what can we say, that's less dangerous kind of thing than what he did before, basically being a vigilante group leader. I don't know what Will did work-wise. Actually,
he's an engineer.
I can't remember. Engineer, right? Yeah.
So, it could be.
This is a good way. If this is his, instead of being a vigilante, he's doing the stuff for Dresden. and maybe not working because it sounds like he's there early, right? But that's how he feels like he's still doing his vigilante bit, but not running around putting himself in danger so he can be there for his kid. That makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense when you put it that way. And also, Will could feel that he's someone that Dresden will listen to if Dresden's going to go too far off the deep end in some way, since he'd had before. Like, they had discussions in like Deadbeat about like, I'm about to lose it, or Turncoat, he's about to lose it, and he was with Will in Georgia. The fact that then he was able to recover a little bit more because they're friends.
They are probably some of his closest friends, right? They're all playing together. He goes to them several times when he's just, like, shit out of luck, and they've been tough with him, and yeah, I mean, I don't know if they're Michael best friends, but it's pretty close up there, right? But Michael's more than just the best friend. He's like
Michael's family.
Yeah.
Right. So there are limits and negotiations happening about the first date with Laura that Justin says is not for 2 more weeks. But Mab's lawyers will want time to review the terms and limitations, so they have to start the discussions early. And terms and limitations is one of those phrases that probably shouldn't apply to dating, says Dresden, but sometimes you need them.
When you're dating Laura Wraith? Yeah, probably.
When you have Mab arranging your wedding? Yeah. And oh boy, does Dresden need a lawyer. But, let's see. Dresden says mourning is for rebuilding and for people. And yeah, that's what Will says, that there's an insert in the morning and Dresden should really talk to her. She really needs help. She's in a bad spot. She doesn't need a wizard. She needs probably just a good PI. And Dresden hasn't been that in a long time, but he's going to try. And her name is Maya, because we have another M name. We get 2 more in this book.
He knows now. He's doing it on purpose. He knows.
There are plenty of other letters. I mean, I understand the impulse, but
Jim, there are plenty of other words for little. There are plenty of other letters than M.
How about tiny?
Minuscule. M and another word for little.
That was adorable. All right. Maya is late 30s, probably has skipped a lot of meals. She's fairly stark, but pretty and dressed in very comfortable clothing. And Dresden remarks that she looks like Susan would have at that age if Susan had survived.
That's going to push some buttons, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, on top of he just lost Murphy, on top of all of the other damage at Battleground, it's got like the reminder, again, he murdered Susan and he could have helped her, or maybe he thinks he could have helped her. Oh my God, so much heartbreak. All right, and Maya is being sued. And Justin's not a lawyer, but she can't afford a lawyer. No one can afford a lawyer, and especially the chaos of Chicago, the courts are so horrible that she's not going to be able to get any help from that either. So she tells Dresden, because as she says in a minute, she needs a miracle, and the word on the street is Dresden can make that happen. She reveals that 8 years ago, she opened up her business for the tutoring, and before that, she had a difficult life. She was a sex worker, and she's looking to see if Dresden is going to judge her for that, and he says, it wasn't my life, wasn't there, not my place to judge. And then I think he asked her, did she have an issue with it? Yeah, and she's wanted something different, she says, and so she got a bachelor's in education and started up the tutoring. She called it Sunflower. And it's specifically focused on kids of the middle or lower class that are trying to get into a better educational situation so that they don't have to stay lower class like their parents are. And a lot of low-income kids, they particularly have a pool of money that they're all chipping in to help supplement the tutoring for kids who truly can't afford it. And there are 39 openings of a Sunflower, all franchises of people tutoring these low-income kids who truly need it. And now all of that is at risk with this suit. that is being put by Tripp Gregory. He owns the building that she was working out of, and even in the previous life. And that's when Dresden's like, oh, so he was the pimp. And that's bad. So he was not a good person. He was a facilitator, but he was arrested on narcotics charges and has been in Pontiac for the past 8 years.
And yeah, well, we'll see. But what a stubborn guy.
Yeah, he's definitely in a showcase in, is it stubborn or stupidity or both? Definitely both. Right.
Very true.
So when he had gone to jail, she had the opportunity to make all those changes in her life. But now he's out, and now he wants a whole bunch of money from her because he seems to think that she has it. He says, "I owe him for the time and back pay." She says.
A note here for the rest of the book here. I was like, even though he's really like, to realize just how, I don't know, kind of ignorant he is, but like, I was so sure that there would be a twist in the book that she did have the money or something, just because he was so convinced, he was so sure, but really, and she just get along, and she's like, he doesn't really have anything like in it to be sure about. He just doesn't understand, people being nice, I guess, because she's like, she respent the money into the company, and she gave away charity, like she gave tutoring away for free to use the income to cover for that time spent on that, and he couldn't understand that the money would have gone to that.
Yeah, he absolutely couldn't understand it. It's like speaking a foreign language to him. Right. There is a clause in the contract that they had signed a long time ago that he says that makes him her partner, demanding repayment from all the profits that the company had made. He's also calling all the money that they had donated for the kids who couldn't pay for the tutoring as profits. And so he's suing for $250,000. But they're a subsistence business. They have no real profit. All of the money goes back into the business. And therefore, she has no money for the lawyers, the depositions, or the experts, or anything like that. But he does.
Well, he cheats, so.
Ooh, hey, no robot.
Yeah. Connection looks like it should be fine, but I've just been waiting for my time, so. But yeah, he cheats because Marcone is providing the lawyers and everything. So.
Mm-hmm. Spoilers.
Oh no! Oh,
we're doing a line-by-line reading. It's going to happen.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Not like we haven't already spoiled things, but I just want to give you a hard time. So everything is crazy with the chemical weapons and the terrorists and the heebie-jeebies and everything. So she needs a miracle. Dresden's the only one available. And since he doesn't like bullies and she's a woman in distress, he's going to help. And he looks up Tripp Gregory, goes to his house, and finds a pair of young women who are apparently dressed to go dancing at the beach. Were just leaving the house.
Probably like, cousins or something,
Yeah, they're just brought over thing of baked cookies or something. But Dresden is still paranoid and watches them in their little sport car as they're leaving, just in case they produced an assault rifle from somewhere, and because he's a trained observer of people. But as he pounds on the door, the guy says, like, I pay you to fucking leave. What do you want now? Because he thinks that it's still the women. And they go back and forth on it. Tripp says, who the fuck are you? And I always expect him, I the fuck am Harry. But he was even more politer than that. Dresden says that he was working for Maya, and the anger that he feels when Tripp calls her a whore is very much on the winter mantle, so says Dresden, or maybe just his own chivalric issues. But he walks through the door of the threshold without permission, which leaves most of the mantle and most of his power outside of it. And it is probably a good decision if he's deciding that the mantle is influencing his anger too much. If he can, despite intentionality, leave it behind. He still has his anger issues, though. They go back and forth about, do you know who I am? And you're an asshole, and you're trying to extort money out of something that doesn't have it, and you're hurting people. And he checks for the very obvious places for a gun, Dresden does, finds a gun, and then throws it around so that Tripp can't have it. There's a lot of bills on a table that says final notice because Tripp has no money. Makes me wonder how he still has a house, because Dresden says that he was the legal owner of the house, so someone had been paying some basic bills for that. Maybe that was Marcone.
Marcone again.
Could be. So Dresden says, this is the friendly talk, Tripp. Drop the case against Sunflower, or you could threaten, but you're the kind of scum that I don't even enjoy scraping off of my shoe. Let's say you put off a bad kind of energy. It's the kind of thing that tends to come back home hard. You think you scare me, Harry, Dresden, Tripp says. Okay, a smart man would be afraid of me. Well, I'm fucking not. And Dresden just leaves it because it's too easy. Not going to go there. But then he says, don't end a sentence in a fucking preposition. And I hate anyone who knows anything about grammar because I can't keep anything of it straight. I don't remember what a preposition is. Don't test me.
I don't know anything about grammar. I can barely put my periods and commas in the right place.
Right. I just know how to speak it, more or less. I don't, especially English grammar. I have to say, learning other languages can sometimes be easier because they're more rigid, but English breaks all its own rules. It is indefensible. Ugh. There's a lot of, wow, I really do not like you. And I did kind of find that a little tiring when it's a fairly short novella and it's just Harry repeating, I do not like this guy. I don't like this guy. I really don't like you. Kind of stop.
Jim's emphasis was also like really, really strong. Like,
Yes.
just like, wow, I really do not like this guy. And it's like, holy crap, man. Like, people don't talk like that. Not often, anyway. So,
yeah. I mean, there's a lot of comparisons to John Wayne. I don't know much about how John Wayne sounded, but if that's what he was going for, okay. But could he change the words a little bit? There's a few other words.
There's a couple of there's a couple of classic lines. Like, the one that sticks in my mind is like the whole, let's get these wagons in a circle, Pilgrim, and he's just like drawing out all of his syllables and stuff. But like I said, like I didn't get a touch on it earlier, but when I was listening to it, I definitely had like Kurt Russell and John Wayne, Love Child. That's Harry Dresden coming out of Jim Butcher. Like, that's what it sounded like to me, because there were a lot of like elongated, syllables. And during the interview, he at least copped to Western influences, right? So, like Dresden is the sheriff in town. So, he's probably channeling that on a subconscious level, I would guess. But
I mean, he specifically named the Kurt Russell character, right, in Big Trouble in Little China.
True. Yeah. Yep. So we got both. But yeah, now in a future book, I want to hear him say, "Fill your hands, you son of a bitch," because like one of the most classic, one of my favorites from True Grit, John Wayne, and then redone recently, obviously, but it's such a classic thing. So.
Okay, like I give a fuck if you like me, Tripp says. Give me my fucking money or I'll see her in court. There is no fucking money, so she lied to you too. And I agree with Andreas that at this point I was wondering if Dresden was being duped and if Maya was something like secretive or supernatural or in some way just setting him up. Apparently not, but we didn't get to see Dresden doing a background check on Maya to see that everything was right. They mentioned it later that they had done so, but it felt like something that now I have to think about it. Now this is foreshadowing.
Yeah.
Okay. More insults, more of the same, more of the, I don't like you, go talk to my lawyer. And then he leaves in the Munstermobile. And Harry says he needs to think this one over. It's time for a skull session. And he goes back down to his old lab, the old little room at the bottom of the sub basement of the old boarding house. And now it is the sub basement of the castle. And it still has more or less the same like table setup. And he's got all this growing collection of weird and exotic objects and a shelf of softcover books and a skull. And he demands to talk to Bob. And Bob has a monster truck toy. He's running this place. It's like driving a monster truck, he says. You want to watch Star Wars again, boss? Because now, with the controls that he has of the castle, he can apparently make anything a projector for whatever it is that he wants. Emails, movies, internet, whatnot.
Yeah, when he did the whole text message thing, projection and stuff, I know this was already happened in Cold Days, right? But now Harry has Bob back, and he's really hit me. Like, I get it. It's been 20 years since the Dresden Files came out, and things have evolved a lot in those 20 years with cell phones and internet and stuff like that. And I get how Jim kind of needed a way to maybe get that in there. But, like, giving Bob access to the internet. God damn, Jim.
Oh, and Bob already had access to the internet when he went to Butters.
That's what, like, from...
Yeah,
I know it happened
broadband.
there, but I didn't really... It didn't really hit me properly now that Bob will just be on the internet now forever.
He's going to stay probably to Pornhub.
Oh, yeah.
No, he's good. Bob? That was day one.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I just don't...
Yeah,
he won't have a reason to leave, is my point.
Yeah, he's like the dirty version of Jarvis now, so... But he better not ever get access to the financials, because that's how Dresden goes bankrupt from all the pay-per-view and everything that he buys, so...
Well, Dresden can't use a credit card, so he doesn't have them around. He doesn't have a credit card number for Bob to be able to empty.
I'm curious where they're keeping the cash to keep the castle running then, because they mentioned that early on. He's got enough cash for 18 months, so...
Yeah, bank account versus hard cash. Who accepts cash nowadays, except for maybe like waiters? Like, I never use it. A vending machine or a tip at a restaurant. No one else accepts cash.
It's something a wizard would do, though, right? Like, he'd be behind the times enough. Oh, yeah. If he doesn't have a credit card, he'd have cash.
Maybe this is where Will is helping out. Of like, here's like you move it through here, you move it there. Here's write a check. Who accepts checks anymore? Ugh. Everything's on a chip. But a castle, a massive magical construct designed and built in bygone days by some hoary old wizard long since dead. Does Dresden know who the wizard is? How did he find out?
Maybe. Yeah.
Okay. The castle requires...
Did Dresden... Sorry, did Dresden bother asking what a starborn is? So...
Oh, God. All the questions that Dresden asked.
Yeah.
Requires a spiritual conductor. It requires Bob. How does this castle require Bob? And so serendipitously, he has it now because he stole it from Marcone. Did Marcone know that it required Bob? Did Marcone have Bob? Or some version of?
I would guess Namshiel would have told him, if he asked the right questions, because that's another thing. I don't expect Namshiel's just like, hey, by the way, you're an idiot the whole time, and he's just like telling Marcone everything he doesn't know. He's probably like, Marcone's like, don't even fucking talk to me unless I ask you directly, But or maybe Guard knew, because that's her job more. So
right.
But.
And if how popular are these spirits of intellect? How many people we know of? Two. We know of like 3 or 4 people that Bob had been owned by. This castle wasn't one that Bob knew of. Presumably, he hasn't said, "Oh, this is the place I used to live in 400 years ago," or anything like that. So who was the spirit of intellect that was running it before? And where did they go? I have too many questions. And
how many people are angels banging?
If they're all coming from angels in the first place.
Right.
True.
Because we don't... We know Bob's parents, but we don't know that he is predicated from, like... an angel relationship or something. If that is a required component, I mean, now I've got some serious questions about Mab and Uriel's teenage years. So
Mm-hmm.
but
I
because
mean,
I felt like she was implicated, if not, like, but yeah.
we do feel like we very unofficially have decided that Mab is involved in Bob's parentage somehow, just because it would be
Right.
fun, probably. But like Randall, I also had the thought: did Marcone get his hands on evil Bob, and that's who he was working with?
I would not.
I mean, for all we know, though, like it seemed very clear that Marcone may not have known about the magical defenses, but certainly hadn't activated them. That seemed to be something that Dresden figured out in short order. So I doubt he had access to Evil Bob unless he was way, way on the down low, right? Just imagine the
Right.
glee Evil Bob has trying to break up the prison break, because he absolutely would have known that was going on,
Yes. So
so-
if Marcone did have evil Bob or anything like that functioning during Peace Talk Battleground, then we should have been able to see it, or that means that Marcone was deliberately letting it happen, the breaking out of
Right.
Thomas, which is possible. But
Sure. I think the conspiracy theory needs one more layer, though, and allow me to wear the appropriate shirt for this today. So, where does Marcone find a castle overseas? He has a source, and so maybe even Guard didn't know, but maybe Marcone went to his contractor and said, "Hey, I would like to have a castle," and he's like. Vaterung's like, I have just the one for you. Marcone doesn't know. Namshiel doesn't mention it. Guard doesn't know. But Vaterung knew. And he knew, hey, let's just get this castle into Chicago and Harry will figure out the rest, But,
yeah.
there's a lot of wishful thinking in this theory, right? I'm not going to hang my hat on it entirely, but
Oh, no,
I
go
think
ahead.
it's plausible.
Do so. Because I've been thinking
Yeah.
similarly. Whether it's Vaterung, I was wondering, like, would Leah, the fairy godmother, like make sure that her godchild has the thing that he needs exactly at the right moment, or would Mab do something similar between that? Considering she has a working relationship with Marcone now, like there's lots of people who might have gone through some levels of energy to make sure that this was available for Dresden, and I just want to know who. And so, what did we know? Marcone paid with a service to someone in a group of people, I think he said, in Scotland to get the castle. And it was also ensorcelled by the Tylwyth Teg, but the Tylwyth Teg are Welsh. So they're not the Scottish people that would have been still more like, say, Mother Winter or Leah or the Norse, because the Norse have ties in Scotland. Yeah. I haven't stopped thinking about this castle in a long time.
It would have been interesting if that had been like no, but they buckled too easily. I feel like to the ice power. But if there had been like a mention of those runes or something, look suspiciously like the ones in Demon Reach, and it was Merlin's castle.
I mean, didn't they mention that at one point? Like
in Little Things, Bob said that the castle's defenses were almost on par with Demon Reach or with the island.
Okay, that's
he
what
did
it
not
is.
say that they were the same. But that was
Gotcha.
why Enya had Gwyn's head, and that she killed him as showing that she knows what the castle's defenses are, because he and the Tylwyth Teg had helped build the defenses.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe it would be cool because it was wizards. So, and we all know that basically Harry is Merlin's heir, right? Like, he's got Demon Reach. He's from the line of either straight bloodline or apprenticeship from Merlin. He's gonna get the books. Like he's the fulcrum. He's Merlin's heir.
Something like, possibly. We have to probably
he's literally
wait several,
Merlin.
Time traveling Murphy, Merlin, something like that.
I really don't hope it's gonna be that one. I like the heir thing.
I think can we officially put the time traveling Murphy thing to bed? Like I think that's pretty to bed at this point. But
we're not gonna see Murphy
like perhaps it's been buried. Perhaps it's 6 feet underground. Perhaps excuse me. I'm sorry. anyway.
We're not gonna see Murphy again until the last book in the apocalyptic trilogy, where Vadarang's gonna be like, "Open the gates," and all the warriors are gonna come, including Murphy.
As an aside, I love that Marsters decided to press Jim. Do you feel bad of what you did to us with Murphy?
When you liked Jim's evil supervillain laugh.
Wonderful moment. I have too many questions of this castle. A lot of tinfoil. And as you're talking about Merlin, and he had refused to tell us who had owned the castle before, and I had thought it was going to be a gimme if I asked, like, does it begin with M? I think he said, yeah, I should have just accepted that. And or like the connections of Merlin to Harry that we've already talked about, of like Merlin and Mab, Merlin and Harry, Merlin and Morgana Le Fay and the Athame, and very confused. I need some answers, and Dresden needs to ask some fucking questions.
You're gonna get them when they're relevant for the plot, and Harry's gonna be like, "What is a starborn?"
Hopefully 12 months finally we'll get some of those with a training montage. So
too much of me is expecting that right when someone like listens to Wind is like, okay, here's all of the information you need to know. He gets pulled into Mirror Universe and is just gonna.
Oh yeah.
And Jim extends it for another 2 years or something. Like, okay, Harry, here's what you need to know, and then he's gone. Yeah, I can see
he's
it.
done this several times, like all the way back in like it was a full moon when he had the first conversation with his id, and the id is like, oh yeah, and about your mother, and then he wakes up and he can't have the conversation anymore.
Right. I mean, if Jim wasn't doing it, and he was like, you know what, I'm going to check out what they're talking about on the Dresden Files, but he's sitting right now. Yep, portal at the end of 12 months.
From a mirror. I still really want it to be he's trying to shave and he's like, looking at his face in a mirror, and he gets only half his face shaved for the whole book. It's just so awkward.
Yeah, like I definitely I'm feeling the interruption, right? You know, one way or another, you know, he's going to get pulled through before he finishes something. But on the flip side, like if it is, you know, like listens to Wind trying to tell him, I'm hoping what happens is, you know, he gets pulled through, and then like the entire mirror is like, I'm not going to tell you what being a starborn is, but I'm going to show you. And we get a whole book on like, this is the mirror side of your choices, right? This is what it looks like to be a starborn and bad. This is what Harry Dresden the Destroyer actually looks like. You know, everybody's been afraid that he's been the bad guy, and everybody's worried, and maybe he's a monster. This is what monster Dresden actually looks like. You know,
these things seems more like something that would be in Uriel's purview.
Well, he didn't ask Uriel what a starborn is. Uriel should answer. Uriel probably wouldn't.
I was just mean in terms of actually showing Harry alternate universe. I feel like that's like it's like I feel like there's like that might not be a wizard level thing being able to do easily, at least, but it will, because Uriel, he's everywhere at once, right? He's in every reality.
Well, that's what I was going to say. Like that, I mean, that would be a nice touch to have Dresden pulled through, and at some point in the middle, you get a little bit of a lull where he meets up with Uriel, and wait, are you my Uriel? And it's like, well, I'm the Uriel, you know, like I am just
Wayne, Mr.
Uriel,
Sunshine. You know?
And I can just see, I can see it from yours. Like, it's like, wait, I was like, excuse me, what are you doing here? This is not your universe. Wrong universe, Harry. It's like, wait, you know me? Yeah, I'm Uriel everywhere. What are you doing here?
Right.
All right, that was a significant tangent of complaining of we need more answers. All right, let's go back. Okay, Bob in Monster Truck Castle. Okay, Harry has told everything to Bob, more or less, and Bob says, is there any chance whatsoever that the hot school teacher is going to get naked during this? Let's assume
assume she's not.
So yeah. I don't see how that could be true, Bob said with certainty. I'll factor it in if you give it, if you like. All right, so we start with Tripp Gregory got the public stuff and called Rollins for the rest, because Rollins didn't retire like he was planning on, because Enya had destroyed too much of his life and he decided to keep working. So Tripp Gregory's record is basically what Harry had seen. He is a pimp and he's a small-time drug dealer. Cocaine mostly, maybe uses his own supply, as he does with both drugs and women. He's got no record of violence, but CPD thinks he's been adjacent to a few too many girls who have gone missing. So either if he didn't do it personally, he probably had someone else do it, or something along the lines he's involved. So Harry says Gut says more likely that he'd sell them. And so Bob suggests kill him, and Harry's uncomfortable with this. Okay, fine. Mostly kill him. Open a way to somewhere he'll get a thematically appropriate end, toss him in, close it, and go have a beer.
Harry doesn't do this to mortals. God damn it, Bob.
But as tempting in its simplicity, Harry just can't handle more death, more killing, at least, right now. So why don't you stick him in a cell in Demon Reach and then have done? Because he doesn't die, but he can't hurt anybody, and you can pick any kind of punishment that you want. But that brings up trauma with thinking of Thomas, and that's not allowed, so that's not possible. This is one of those scruples things, and Bob still doesn't get it between morals or ethics or same difference. It's irrational and illogical, and he doesn't like it. Okay, but Bob says he only has a few options. So first, you can convince him to withdraw the case voluntarily, either scare him off or buy him off. But Harry doesn't have money anymore because he's got some set aside for Maggie and her tuition to the special Harry Potter type school, and he's got enough left over to run it for 18 months. He needs income. He cannot spend it. And he'd use the money to expand the operations and ultimately hurt more people, so that's not a good thing. All right, call up something out of the Never Never or Demon Reach and do the Face Full of Plasma spell and tell him to buzz off, which might work. Let's see. Fight him in court like Perry Mason. Who's Perry Mason?
I don't know.
Oh, kids. No.
Los Angeles.
I mean, Perry Mason was also the name of the TV show. So 1957 to 1966.
We need Ben.
You got the whole internet at your fingertips right there. So
yeah,
you don't want to.
Looks like it got rebooted in 2020. So and is still going according to IMDb. So that might be why it was a pertinent reference.
Yeah, because that even seems old for Jim or Bob. Okay, right. Odd reference. Okay. But Harry is not a lawyer, and it'd be more expensive to hire one than to pay him off. All right, so that's how settlements work. But can the sexy schoolmarm pay a lawyer with sex? No. Can you, Bob? Keeping all the options open.
Yeah. All of Bob's options are just like screwing or killing.
Well, yeah, I do like we kind of came up against. I can't remember if it was like. It was one of the early books, right? But it's like, why don't you just kill him, Dresden? Bob, you can't just run around killing people. I know. That's why you should do it. So it's just like we were very close to that conversation again. So
yes. One thing I really loved about the novella was just like having a solid dose of Bob and his snark. Something I missed. Even though it wasn't in Marster's voice, it's like Jim's performance was pretty good. It wasn't even all that different, but Marster's is perfect. If this show ever happens, Marster still needs to stay on for Bob's voice, if no one else, but also most of everyone else. Okay. So we don't have cash, and there's some form of bartering, perhaps, but Dresden has an idea. Like something occurs to me. Perhaps it's bound to happen time to time. Right. If he has all the bills stacked up against from being in jail, how the hell can he afford a lawyer? Bob says maybe he's paying in sex. It's a very good currency to Bob. Right. That transaction only goes the other way, probably. But the lawyer who represented him before he got sent to Pontiac was Talvey Inverno. So what can they find on this guy? And this was interesting. I really found this interesting that Bob does some basic Google level searches and doesn't find much. There's not much of an internet presence, just some public records. There's no business advertisement. There's no, everything is very minimal surface level. And it's hard for Google to say anything about an outfit lawyer or anything else, or it's hard for Bob to understand what Google is saying. It's the bigger issue. So Harry tells Bob to get in touch with Paranoid Gary and have Gary find the information because Gary is an internet native. All right. So Harry's going to try to see if he can scare Tripp Gregory off. Maybe it'll work. If he gets scared enough, then he won't keep pushing. But then he's going to have a bunch of information from Gary afterwards.
I prefer Gary's alternate title. Crazy but not wrong, Gary.
Boats. So he goes up to Tripp Gregory's place and sees another young woman just driving herself away. Let's see. This intimidation tactic does not work because Tripp is too stupid to be intimidated. Like, intimidation does kind of depend on the sense of fear that you can instill. And if you are too stupid to be afraid, it's just does not work.
I like a lot of the memes I've seen around this with like D&D memes where it's like, so what do? I intimidate him, I show him my magic. Natural one.
Yes. So, Harry does some basic things. He hacks the BMW that he does the like star spell or something, or the fire. It was a green fire or something like that, but it was real fire, even though it's magical. Blah, blah, blah. But Tripp just says it's the heebie-jeebies. He can't do anything. He's just having a chemical dose of the terrorist attack, something or other, HBGB. He's going to go lie down and take a nap. And Justin is just like, but you're supposed to be scared.
This works like almost always with the mortals. Like,
yeah,
what
the propaganda is a hell of a drug. So,
yeah, I'm going to melt your face off if you don't back off the lawsuit on my. I'm just going to go take a nap.
That's a nap time if I ever saw one right there. I mean, if you're actually that's like convinced that it's like a drug spread by terrorists. Does it? I don't know. We don't really get the details, but I guess just go lie down, dude. I mean, what? Maybe go see a doctor.
There wasn't a real chemical, so if they were knowledgeable enough to say that there wasn't a chemical, but here there's HBGB, whatever, something happened, and to explain all the things, what can they tell you as the placebo medication to ward it off? Drink some water, go take a nap.
To me,
most things.
Yeah, I mean, that's all well and good, but to me, the bigger thing is like, what happened to downtown? Where did all the buildings go if it's mass hysteria? Like, they're saying that when they detonated the chemicals that, like, so it was like a simultaneous, like, large-scale terrorist attack flattened a city and released the heebie-jeebies at the same time. Like,
yes, because that is easier to swallow than anything that they saw that was crazy actually was real.
And which group was responsible for this? Because like there's a lot of questions about the official answer too. Like obviously it's very hand wavy and I'm sure that's as much the government as it is Jim at this point. And maybe we'll get more of that in 12 months again or something. But like that's like what happened in Chicago with Enya is bigger than Pearl Harbor and 9/11 combined by far. Like it would be the largest attack ever. Like there are wars that don't inflict that much carnage on a single city, right? Like it boggles my mind that they were like, oh yeah, and P.S. it was terrorist organization X, or it was the Russians, or well, like what? Who even has the capability of doing that? And people are just like, yep, it's the heebie-jeebies. Like obviously Tripp's an idiot, so we don't go through his lens for anything. But for them to even try and like write it off that way,
Before Ukraine, you could have said the Russians. Now nobody would believe that.
Right. I mean, though the Russians have leveled several major cities in similar fashion. True. So
I was just making fun of the Russian incompetence. But I thought the way it was gonna go from Battlegrounds and forward would be like there are plenty of these urban fantasy books where it's like magic is known and accepted or whatever, but everybody knows to one degree or another, and it starts integrating into humanity and culture. And I kind of thought that would be where it would start to go from that point on, from Battlegrounds. Uh, but
Right.
it seems like Jim does not want to go that way, and it like you say, Justin, kind of it edges on the believability a little bit, like, because we know, like, the humans explaining it away in these smaller encounters, plus organizations trying to hide it. But this was so big, like this is the biggest thing we've ever seen. But we do also know, the Black Staff have done some pretty big things with magic. Just him
Right.
alone, that has not been. That's just been like, that was just natural disasters.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah, I forgot if it was an earthquake in the law, like that helps a little bit, that it is more of a natural disaster because I mean, I don't imagine Chicago is seismically unstable, so there'd be a lot of difference there and whatnot. But it seems so wild. But you do get a little bit of a wedge the other direction too, because spoilers for later in the story that we're going to get to eventually. But like he does run across the police, and a lot of them are still wearing the bean, right? They know, and they just don't talk about it either.
Right.
So it's like he's probably pulled a significant chunk of Chicago into knowing, right? Even his lawyer and everything like that. People know, they just don't talk about it because then they get labeled as wackos like Butters did, or whatever else. So yeah.
Or it's just that the conversation that you have in daytime. You have that conversation in the dark when no one can see your face and how scared you are.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, even if everyone knows, it's also could just be uncomfortable to discuss and acknowledge. And so the TV saying, don't panic, it's just a chemical that you drink some water and you'll be fine. It's comforting, and people will rely on that when they need it. And they'll acknowledge the uncomfortable facts when they can, for the
it's
most
also
part. Or
just,
when they are forced to, but that's still questionable.
it's I think I actually have like a thought right now where about that. Like two things. One, people saw the same thing, right? They all all the people talking about, they would then have seen, like, if they were in the vicinity of whatever happened in Chicago at any given point, they would have seen a Titan or lots of frogmen or Jotuns, whatever. They would have seen the same thing. But besides that, there's also video recordings and stuff. And I know there would have been a lot of like mortal magic because there was wizards defending Chicago, but all of the not mortal magic, which was most of it, would not have disrupted a cell phone, for example. Wouldn't there be a lot? Because I saw that video that I think with Daniel Green where he says like, "Oh, forget the whole thing. I brought up a criticism about video recordings. There would have been a lot of that, but of course not, because there was a lot of magic." But I'm not sure I agree with that, because I don't think Daniel thought about that. It is only mortal magic that disrupts technology.
But I mean, yes, but no, right? Because I think there was a little bit of a hex, and there was some stuff that Enya and her forces were doing during the battle too, right? To drive the fear.
Yeah, like,
So, and that's why
But
Mab had to do the
Don't
fog.
do mortal magic.
but didn't she do something to turn off all the lights? Like, she disrupted the
Yeah,
power.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So if she disrupted the power, then that would also possibly disrupt like the internet lines or anything like that. Maybe someone could have taken a recording. Maybe we'll see someone who did do that, but they'll probably just get buried and taught like as if they're crazy
It,
people.
yeah, for a shorthand, it's not a one-to-one thing, but I took it as basically the same play that Cal did in Deadbeat, right?
Yeah.
Like Cal
Yeah,
just
it's
simply
some
being
form of
there.
magical EMP, and that was one of the things I think Faravax was trying to counter some amount of.
I thought he was closing the ways was mostly what he was doing. So
I have to do a
um,
re-listen. Maybe we should just re-listen to the whole series all over again. Reread.
we should start. Yeah, in 3 years we'll finally come back to this conversation.
Give us some time. All right. Yeah. I want to remember again of what all of the things that were happening, and whether it's valid or not that someone should have been having recordings or not. Maybe there was so much destruction can cause a lot of disruption. They could specifically be trying to knock out the cell towers or anything like that. But I don't know. Undecided on that point.
Yeah, I don't know. I just know that at least in Daniel's video, I don't think the point that he brought up as the excuse didn't really stand. That a lot of magic means all the technology was out, because it is only mortal magic by the rules of this world. But it could, like people brought up in chat, that it could have been like a magical EMP, which didn't only take out power, it was specifically made to take out technology. I'm sure non-humans can do that. Like it's just easier for human wizards. So they just amp up their magic and go, like Dresden goes hexes, right? I'm sure a non-mortal practitioner can do hexes. So yeah.
All right. Well, Dalton says that it wasn't just lights. All the cars and cameras and internet stopped, which would explain that. But I want to go back to the text and actually find that. All right. So Justin with Tripp, Justin says, I had just been defeated by a literal hallucination built from denial and the most determined and pettily self-interested stupidity I had ever encountered. So intimidation will not work. All right, and that puts us at the beginning of chapter 6, and we are at an hour. There's no way we're going to get through this today, so I guess we will pick up from here next time, and this would be when we're talking to Paranoid Gary and Will.
How did we get further? Like, did we go on? We never go on tangents. That never happens.
Not ever. Not with tinfoil and questions and irritation and a lot of questions.
Yep.
So.
See. Yeah, I guess people can join us for part 2 in 14 days. Next week, we'll be doing While We Weren't Recording, which is not Dresden. It's anything else, really, pretty much. I don't think we have a specific theme set up for that one.
No, that one's the no topic, so we can just get everyone together and see what happens, which is probably going to be talking about Marvel.
I mean, I just watched Love and Thunder yesterday. I wouldn't mind talking about that.
I shouldn't have said anything.
You set yourself up there.
I mean, it's just admitting the inevitable, but also I don't need to cause it. It's just like,
we haven't talked about the new Marvel show either. I need to watch the last episode.
There are other IPs.
Yes, but the Marvel one is nearest and dearest to my heart of all the IPs.
No, Dresden is.
Do you want to do a deep dive into Alien or Terminator or Predator? I mean, which IPs would you like to talk about?
Alien's cool.
Right?
There's an Alien TV show coming soon. Did you know?
No.
I just saw that yesterday. There's coming one, a prequel one, 21st century, the first one to take place on Earth. No recurring characters except the alien.
This sounds terrible.
I know. Stop. I kind of like so aliens like the 4 movies, like those were fun. But
I think Ridley is involved, if that helps.
I don't think it does, because Prometheus was
Yeah.
This is
interesting.
True. I definitely don't care.
Justin, did you see that? Resident Evil's out on Netflix. I didn't even know that was coming. There's a show out.
It's a show.
Is it the Raccoon City something?
No, it takes place in London. I think it's like 14 years after the world has gone kablooey of Resident Evil. And it follows a daughter of someone, because I recognize the last name. Whistler, something like that.
Gotcha.
I'm not really into the Resident Evil universe, to be honest. So I don't really.
I mean, I never played the games much or anything, but I liked the first movie and half of the second one, and it just kind of became like I'm going to watch these because they're more zombie movies, and then it just got really bad, and I stopped. So, like. Yeah,
they did a remake.
She just turned into a superhero.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, I like that. I like when she became a superhero, and then I was annoyed when they took it all away. The next movie is like, no, I wanted to see her be a superhero.
No, like between that and like all the the company agents that were all like the same looking guy, like was a clone or whatever. That's not what I'm watching for, guys. Like, let's go back to the wonky zombies and just the general, because like the first one is like it's very. Formulaic, right? Like the first movie anyway, right? We've got good actors and actresses. You recognize, at least half of them from various different things. you've got your corporation going way off the rails. You've got generally just normal zombies with the psycho computer, and we're trying to escape, right? And it's only once you get to the end that you start getting into some of the crazy mutations and stuff. The second one, they've got to take the mutations even further, but that's where I feel like it's kind of starts to go off the rails, and then it's just like, they go everywhere, right? Like, I mean, it's a movie a year for a while. It felt like it was like, dude, you're just churning these out. But
so it has to be the bad. Wesker's the bad guy, right?
Wesker's a bad guy generally.
But
yeah, well,
so,
that's
I
how
don't remember
anyway.
the movies very well, but I mean, if you're looking for a zombie video game, the remakes that they did, I thought were pretty good. And I have to go back and watch that movie. I remember enjoying the movie, but I don't think they treated the original content very well at all, from what I understand.
Probably not. Yeah.
No, they don't.
I'm gonna have to watch it though, because freaking Lance Reddick is in it. So
oh no,
gonna have to go see Zavala be awesome. So
that's the guy from Destiny, right?
Yeah,
he has a very unique voice.
No, but I mean,
well, right?
Yeah, he's also the guy. What is it? What do they call it in John Wick? The concierge or whatever.
Yeah.
So
he's one of the dudes.
He remains loyal to John, I believe, through all the movies. I like him.
Right.
He's a ride or
because
die
he wants
homie.
to live. So that's why.
Well, I think that was the show for today.
Yes, we've even successfully plugged things. But you can tweet at us at DresdenCast. You can subscribe on YouTube. Thankfully, we got all the way up to 2,999, and I was just like, can we please not stay at this edge? And people got us over the 3,000 mark, and it was nice because my eye could stop switching.
Alex. Thought we were better than that.
I don't just leave me at a number like that. Get me to a nice round number at least.
We're gonna get to 301 and
or 305 because we have people who are nice to us.
Exactly. So